Welcome into One-on-One Nightly, the first episode of the year. We are currently streaming on YouTube Live, so make sure to tune in. My name is Brendan Shorey, and I am joined right now by Michael Matuch. Caleb Stein is manning the board today, but will be joining us to talk MLB playoffs in a bit. We got Brian Raybacks on video, who will be joining us later on in the show to talk a little New York football. Julia Moss is in the back supervising as well. And boy, what a show we have tonight. But before I delve into it, Michael, how you doing today?
Brendan, I'm having a time. I love Wednesdays because Wednesdays are my off days. So I get to have a time on Tuesday and then sleep until like 1 p.m. And it's the best.
I can't blame you. I got Wednesdays free as well, although I had to get up a little early today to do some work.
You at work.
It was worth it. It was worth it. No class. Got to work, got to do a little research for the show, and now we're here to talk about some sports. Could not complain about that. It's always a good time to talk sports, especially in October, which is where we'll be starting the show today. We're going to run into a little MLB playoff talk. 4 different wildcard series going on between yesterday and today, possibly tomorrow. We already know there's 2 series that will not have a game tomorrow. We're going to dive into that later. But before we move on from that, Michael, unfortunately your Mets did not make it to October, but is there a team or player that you're rooting for right now?
Toronto's my second favorite team, and now that they're bounced, I'm on the O's bandwagon. I want to see the O's are gonna be amazing. But that's later in the show. We'll talk about that later. But I mean, I'm just so happy to be here for a nightly for a long time. I actually was on the last one-on-one nightly full calendar year ago.
Wow.
My name was still on the title from last year. So
okay. So
basically, this is my show, and I'm letting you on it. So.
A returning face that we love to see. After MLB playoffs, we're going to dive into a little NHL preview. We got the Devils, Rangers, and Isles starting their season in about a week. Preseason is underway. We're going to have you headlining that one, Michael, the incoming Isles beat reporter for this year.
Shout out Julia for putting me on that. But I'm looking forward to going down to see the Islanders play. I'm looking forward to that. I'm so looking forward to hockey. I love hockey. Hockey's the best.
It's a great sport, especially when that playoff atmosphere gets involved. Arguably one of the top playoff sports to go to games at.
You won't say it, but
after the NHL, we're gonna take a look at some New York football. Jets and Giants just wrapped up their weeks. They're both 1-3, not off to the greatest starts. New York fans not too happy with their teams. Zach Wilson quarterbacking the Jets, a big change from the expected Aaron Rodgers. And then the regression of the Giants from last year to this year. We're going to dive into that later. After that, we got a little baseball talk. We're going back to the Diamond. Yankees and Mets. Yankees just fired their manager. We're going to go into that. Michael, you're going to tell us your thoughts on that later. I know you're a big Mets fan. You're going to be excited to talk about that one, aren't you?
I'm hyped. I'm bumping. Oh, man.
I can't blame you.
I miss Buck so much. He was so cool.
We'll get into that in a bit. Yankees as well. We'll head into the Bronx Bombers. Look at Aaron Boone. Look at what this team has to come for the next year. Kind of review their year as well. And finally, we're going to go into some college football. We got some big matchups this week, a few ranked matchups to talk about, some big rivalries. We'll take a look at Texas, Oklahoma, Red River rivalry down in Texas. A little iteration there for you.
Good luck saying that 5 times fast, yeah.
Oh, I guarantee you I can't. We'll take a look at Mizzou, LSU, another battle between the 21st ranked Mizzou and the 23rd ranked LSU. Take a look at number 25 Louisville versus number 10 Notre Dame. I've been on multiple shows in the past few weeks. Every one we've covered Notre Dame. It's not going to change. We're going to do it again this time. And I think that's going to do it for this segment. When we get back, we're going to hop into a little MLB playoffs. Caleb Stein will be joining us for that segment. So make sure you stay tuned to listen to talk about some Diamond Ball.
Ryan Gregory here, joined with Michael Calamari and Andrew Galata, three of your hosts for Nosebleeds, WFUV's only baseball podcast.
Tune in every week as we recap the latest from the Bronx and Queens, as well as news from around the MLB.
You can listen to Nosebleeds on Apple, Spotify, WFUVsports.org, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Take a trip around the bases all season long with the Nosebleeds podcast on WFUV Sports.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Lou Orlando.
And I'm Colin Lochran.
And we're two of your main hosts for WFUV Sports' NHL podcast, 5 on 3.
We'll keep you updated on the Rangers, Islanders, Devils, and of course, the Stanley Cup Final.
Home ice for all things NHL, 5 on 3.
Welcome back into One-on-One Nightly. We got the best music here on Nightly, way better than One-on-One on Saturdays. I see Julia cringe back there. It's arguable. There's definitely a debate there. I mean, some jams here.
That beat's nice. I don't
know.
I like it.
Especially that intro and the outro we'll have later. It goes hard. So we're going to talk about some baseball right now. We're going to go around the diamond. 2 playoff series, 2 wild card series have already wrapped up. The first one, Rangers-Rays. My Rangers took down the Rays in 2 games. Swept them 2-0. Dominant performances from both Jordan Montgomery and Nathan Eovaldi. Gave up 1 run combined. Montgomery threw 7 scoreless yesterday. Eovaldi 6 2/3, giving up 1 run, which was a lucky run. It was off an error by Josh Young, and he admitted that after the game in his post-game press conference. He was, yeah, that's on me. But a dominant performance from the Rangers this series, both with the bats and the pitching. I'm going to start with you, Michael. What really impressed you from this series?
I mean, I think it's impressive that the Rangers were able to take this down in front of all 8 Rays fans in attendance. But, I mean, I think the Rangers did a really good job of capitalizing on where the Rays were making their mistakes. Because, I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about this, but I kind of want to say that the Rangers didn't win Game 1, but the Rays lost it. Because the Rays just kept making mistakes over and over. With taking 4 errors in the first game, and Tyler Glasnow just looking off. I mean, it's not a great start. When you have an error on the second play of the game, it just kicks off like nothing happening. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you're obviously going to say that the Texas Rangers are the team, but I mean.
Well, the Rays did do that to themselves. I mean, an error in each of the first 3 innings. Rangers were able to capitalize off that. Caleb, the Rangers won today, 7-1. You're a Boston fan. You know Nate Eovaldi. Did he impress you or what today?
He impressed me. He totally did. I mean, he's one of those guys where, especially the season that we had, the Red Sox, we missed him. I miss him. But, you know, I'm glad to see that he's doing well, and he had a great postseason performance today.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at Eovaldi's past postseason performances, he's now 6-1.
Not too shabby,
the team is 6-1 when he starts.
Gotcha.
He deals in the playoffs. An ERA under 4. It's like a 3.25, something around that. But an absolute dealer in the playoffs. Rangers were able to take advantage of that today. They put up 7 on the Rays today. 7. And this time it was with minor Rays errors. You didn't see many of them today. The Rangers' bats were just working so well. You could see them just hitting with runners in scoring position super well, with 2 outs super well. They were not giving up, which is something we haven't seen down the stretch of the season. Their offense was super streaky at times. We didn't see it much yesterday. We saw them. They took advantage of some gifts from the Rays, but they didn't create much on their own. And so the Rangers will now head to Baltimore to take on the Orioles. Game 1 is Saturday at 1 o'clock. I'm going to get both of you guys' opinions on this. How do you think this series will go for both these teams?
I just love the way the Orioles look. I mean, seeing how they've built up over the past few years and seeing how they're just so well developed, their minor league team, their minor league system, along with the guys on their roster now. I mean, it's just going to be exciting baseball to watch. And not saying... Actually, I'm going to say these first few games of playoffs haven't been that great because there's been whompings either way. Where we see a game, let's just sloppy play from Tampa. I mean, that was rough to watch. I didn't enjoy that, but I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing some quality baseball once. Caleb, you agree with that, or?
I think it'll be a close series. I think the main thing with the Orioles right now is offensive consistency. If you look at the stats batting average over the season, they have 7 out of their 9 guys who are batting over 250. And that's that's nice. That's nice. And for the Red Sox this year, that was probably like 2 or 3, right? And so I think the thing with the Orioles is that they're a solid team all around. I wouldn't say they have a ton of big stars like the Rangers do. And the elephant in the room, they don't have playoff experience.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Both the team itself and the players on the diamond for that team, and the Rangers do. You have Evaldi, you have Seager, Simeon's been in there, right? And so I think it comes to what is gonna matter. Is it gonna be the consistency, or is it gonna be the playoff experience? And I'm gonna lean playoff experience because playoff baseball. Now that the Rays are out, it's reliably a full crowd. It's reliably a much more electric atmosphere, especially relative to the regular season. So I think the Rangers have a decent shot. I think the Orioles will take it, though.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. October baseball is different. It's a whole different game. You play 162 games in the season, and then comes October, and you have the October stars. The Orioles just don't have the experience that the Rangers' key players do. But the Orioles did win 100 games this season. It's going to be a very entertaining series, to say the least. I think it'll go to a full 5.
It could go the distance, yeah.
I think it could go to a full 5. Obviously, I'm going to lean with my Rangers. You have
definitely
to.
Not
you
impartial,
have to.
yeah.
You have to. I gotta go with them. I can see an argument for both sides. It's definitely a fair take to take the Orioles. We're going to stay in the AL now, but we're going to move on to the next playoff series. We got the Twins taking on the Astros next week. We'll talk about that in a minute. But that's because the Twins just swept the Blue Jays. I'm sorry, Michael. You said it earlier. Your secondary team is the Blue Jays. Twins just swept them. How do you feel about the Blue Jays now that they're out, and how do you feel about the Twins going forward?
I just kept feeling like Toronto was getting unlucky. I mean, in Game 1, they were out hitting. Didn't they out hit them in this game too? I think they did. They were out hitting, and they weren't having errors. They weren't doing sloppy ball. I mean, I don't know. It's just, as I was doing my research, I was just saying, oh well, the Twins got lucky. They get the home runs, but they mash. During the regular season, they finished 3rd in home runs, and that's just what they do best. I mean, they were in Game 1. There's a big difference between Game 1 and Game 2, because I mean, just seeing how Toronto kept it competitive, I felt a little bit more today. But I mean, there was just nothing really going on. They couldn't get the ball rolling at all.
I think allowing 1 run in 18 innings of baseball to the Toronto Blue Jays speaks more about how well the Twins pitched and defended than how bad the Blue Jays were. I'm going to give credit to the Twins. I think there is something for the Jays to hang their head on. I think that was a pretty disappointing performance, especially because I think they were probably favorites in the series. But the Twins, I think the Twins deserve more credit than the Blue Jays deserve.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Deserve a bad rap.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Ben, you mentioned it. The Blue Jays, they're still hitting. It's not like they're not hitting. But then at that point, it really comes down to hitting in the clutch and hitting with runners in scoring position. And I know I've seen my fair share of trouble with that, but that's when you need the hits the most. If you sprinkle the hits throughout the innings and you get, say, a single every inning, well, then you finish with 9 hits. But what does it do for your team? You need to be able to hit in situations where you can score, in situations when there are runners on second and third, and with 2 outs even. I mean, you need to be able to come up in those situations, especially if you want to be able to move on in October.
They went 13 for 4 with guys in scoring position this series, and that's just not going to cut it.
Yeah,
that's why they're obviously not in anymore, because it's just the clutch factor that we just needed to see. And I mean, when we get like Vlad getting hosed at second base, saying, "No, guys," during today's game, he got hosed, he got picked off, and I'm just like, oh, come on, boys, what are we doing? I was the Blue Jays minor league affiliate intern this summer for the Buffalo Bisons, and I saw a few of these guys come through. Wish I saw more of them, but I mean, that's honestly kind of why I would go on the field, I would chat with them, but like, yeah, no, they didn't do well and under pressure.
And I think one player you kind of have to bring up when talking about this series is Royce Lewis. I mean, he in the second half of the season was setting records. He mashes the ball. Yeah. I mean, he hit 3 grand slams in a span of 25 games.
Nuts.
I mean, that's never been done before. And then you have this rookie get called up and come along and do it. And we saw him in Game 1 as a rookie go for 2 home runs, driving in 3 of the Twins' runs. And I think he was really the key piece as to why the Twins were able to win this series.
When you hit 2 for 6 in your at-bats, it's incredible. I mean, he mashed 2 home runs in the first game as the DH this game as well, and he just put Toronto to bed. He just sent him home. He left. He took every opportunity to embarrass Toronto, and he did it. So,
and yeah. I think we got to talk about the Twins heading to Houston now. Game 1 is on Saturday. Time still to be determined. Twins, Astros, we've seen it a couple times the regular season. What expectations do you have for this matchup?
I mean, Houston's just the big scary guy that no one likes, and going down there to see him, it's gonna be a tough game. It's gonna be a tough matchup. I mean, they're both 2 teams that hit the ball well, and it's gonna come down to, like we talked about in the Rangers-Rays, who can come up in the clutch spots and put their team ahead. If Lewis is able to keep at it, then I'm going to give it to the Twins, but it's going to be an uphill battle.
It'll definitely be close. I have the Astros in this one, even though I don't want them to.
Yeah.
One thing's for sure is that it's going to be a high-scoring game. So however many games there will be, it will be high-scoring. And pitching it might come down to pitching, not in the sense that it's going to be a pitching battle, but the fact that it's going to be who's going to allow less than 6 runs this game. Or who's going to allow, less than 5? Who's gonna cut off the bats that will inevitably go off throughout the entire series? And honestly, I think that is probably slightly into the Astros, but nothing clear. I think the Astros have slightly better pitching and pretty decisively better offensive production, so they'll take the series.
All biases aside and dislike for the Astros aside, I do think the Twins will take this series. You look at the Astros, and they have been very poor at home this season, losing record at home. You don't see that. You just don't see that in professional baseball. And the Astros went, and it's the lowest win percentage at home in years, and they made the playoffs. And now they have a series which is going to be dominantly at home. I think this is a very winnable series for the Twins. I think they can take it. I think they can take it. Not even in 5. I think they could possibly take it in 4.
Whoa.
I know. Bold. I think it's possible. We'll see. That series starts on Saturday. We're going to switch over to the National League now. We have the Brewers playing the Diamondbacks right now. Diamondbacks lead that series 1-0, although they are trailing the Brewers 2-0 at this point in the game. We saw Corbin Carroll come up clutch yesterday, a home run, a couple RBIs. Diamondbacks, a few guys had home runs yesterday. That was really the story of the game. Brewers took an early lead. Diamondbacks took that lead right back from them and added to it. 6-3 the final score. What did you guys see out of that game, and what do you expect to see from the rest of the series?
So out of game one, when Milwaukee jumped to that early lead, I thought, okay, well, here it is. Arizona's going to roll over dead here and just play possum the rest of this time. And I was really surprised when they came back, and they came back in a big way. Those third and fourth innings, they really just sort of took them to the next level. And I'm waiting for them to do that in this game today. I mean, we're in the fifth inning now? Yeah. The bottom of the fourth, and we're still waiting for Arizona to get the wheels turning. I mean, Arizona's getting actually no hit right now, which is kind of crazy. But oh God, why'd I say that? Now it's gonna get blown.
It's not gonna happen anymore now. You can't mention it,
guys. My bad. But I'm just waiting to see if they're able to flip that switch like they did in the previous game.
Yeah. I think this is gonna be another close series. Obviously, it's just a 3-game series. But I think you got to give credit to the Arizona Diamondbacks, and I think that momentum that they had, they're going to carry it into Game 1. And I really do think they're gonna end up taking the lead in the remaining 5 innings that you have tonight. Even though it's in Milwaukee, I think they have the offensive production that the Brewers, I think, had, just not as much and just not as consistent as the Diamondbacks did throughout the entire season.
One thing that I think is surprising about this series is that when you look at both yesterday's game and today's game. Yesterday's game, the Diamondbacks were able to at least put 3 on the Brewers' ace, Corbin Burns. It wasn't a great pitched game by their ace. And then you look at today's game, the Brewers were able to put 2 early on Zach Gallen. So both of these teams' aces kind of getting dealt with, tossed aside, however you want to say it, but they're not pitching like the ace that they are expected to be in this series. And I think that's one thing that might come back and bite both of these teams, whoever moves on. I mean, we saw it for the Diamondbacks, we saw it in that last series against the Astros in the regular season. We saw both Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly pitch, and they got swept that series. Yeah. I mean, when your ace comes out, and I'm not saying he's pitching a bad game by any say, but when he's getting jumped on early and the Brewers are taking a 2-0 lead that early in the game, that's something that I think is kind of a little something to be worried about.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm trying to figure out if I want to give this series to the Diamondbacks or the Brewers, and right now I'm leaning Brewers because obviously they have this no-hitter going right now. But, I mean, I feel like Arizona just got – I don't want to say it's lucky because when you go out and come back in a game like that, it's obviously incredible. But last game, they were only 1 for 10 with guys in scoring position, which is abysmal. That's rough.
Yeah.
I mean, Milwaukee was a little bit better. They were 3 for 11. But, I mean, if you're going to no-hit so far through 4 innings, it's going to be an uphill battle. So I'm ready to give this to Milwaukee. But, I mean,
I think the biggest asset that you can have in the playoffs is momentum.
Yeah.
And that can be influenced by so many things. That can be influenced by playing in front of a home crowd. That could be playing with an experienced playoff team. And I think right now we're looking at a turning point for either team right now, for Arizona or Milwaukee. Arizona had the momentum 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Right? Easily. Now it's looking like it could be both ways. And I think literally right now as we turn to the top of the 5th, it's going to be up to Arizona offense because Milwaukee defense is doing what they know how to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and so that series, the winner of that series will go on to play the Dodgers. We're going to flip over one last series in the NL. One last series of the week is going to be the Phillies and the Marlins. We saw the Phillies last year, wild card team, Cinderella-like run to the World Series. Unfortunately, they lost it to.
No, not unfortunately. Screw Philly. I'm not a Philly guy. I'm sorry. No, you talking.
I say unfortunately they lost it because they lost it to the Houston Astros.
Yeah.
Astros took that one. Phillies started off the season very poorly. I know that because they played the Rangers to open the year. Jacob deGrom pitched game 1. Did not have a good game. Phillies jumped out to a big early lead, blew it, and that kind of set the tone for the beginning of their season. And then you had the Trey Turner resurgence in the middle of the season when he's slumping, he's doing god awful, and then he gets a standing ovation.
Yeah.
And then his season completely turns around. He's putting up arguably World Baseball Classic numbers. World Baseball Classic Trey Turner numbers since then. And him and Bryce Harper have led this Phillies team to the 4 seed in the NL. They currently lead the Marlins 1-0 in the series. Game 2 recently started at 8 tonight. What do you guys want to see out of Game 2? And who do you think will be the team that moves on?
I think this is going to be more of a defensive opportunity for the Marlins. Well, if you couldn't tell earlier, I'm rooting for the Marlins in this, but Jesus Luzardo last game was not great. 3 earned runs in his 4 innings that he pitched is bad. And if Miami's able to avoid that, another no-hitter going on in the Miami game through the first inning. But I mean,
it's a little early there.
Yeah, don't worry. But I think if Miami's able to finally get it locked down, pitching wise, and their defense able to step up, then I think it's going to be okay. Phillies last game, they had a lot of guys in scoring position, but they weren't able to capitalize it on that much. They went 3 for 14, which is they had a lot of opportunity to take a big lead, they never really did. So if Philly's able to capitalize on getting a big lead, that's a dumb take of me to say. Whoever gets the bigger lead will win, but
math, numbers,
yeah.
But PEMDAS and all that.
Yeah, carry the one and then you got it.
But yeah, if Philly's able to capitalize on getting guys in scoring position home, then I'm going to give it to Philly. But I mean, I'm looking for the Marlins to step up here.
I think this might be the most clear-cut series for me. I think it'll be the Phillies. I think the pressure right now is on Aaron Nola. I think that the Phillies, as far as offensive production, that leans their way. I think also, as I talked earlier anyway, momentum is the biggest factor in the playoffs. I think the Phillies have the most momentum out of any team, especially in the National League. If you look at their fan atmosphere, if you look at their season last year, they have a chip on their shoulder from
It's electric over there.
There were some guys.
It's electric over
They
there.
were screaming Red October in the bars last night. So at trivia. So.
And this is in New York. This isn't even in the state of Pennsylvania, and we got the Red October buzz already. So I think the Phillies can definitely make a deep run. I honestly hope they do, but they got Miami pretty much wrapped up.
Yeah.
So the best contact hitter in the league, and Araya, is taking on a powerful lineup led by Bryce Harper and the Phillies. The winner of that series will take on the 100-win Braves, led by future NL MVP Ronald Acuna. We just talked baseball. We're going to be right back with Michael Matuch headlining us with some NHL talk. Stay tuned, and we will be right back.
What's going on, guys? I'm Jack Warner, one of your New York Rangers beat reporters for the 2023-2024 NHL season. I'll have you covered all season long as New York looks to bring a Stanley Cup back to the Big Apple in Peter Laviolette's first season as head coach. Follow me on Twitter at Jack_Warner23 for live game updates, post-game media availability, and all things Blue Shirts.
Welcome back to One-on-One Nightly. I'm Michael Matuch, joined by Brendan Shorey today, and we are talking puck. I am so happy that hockey's back. I'm from Buffalo, big hockey town, incredible amount of NHLers from the area, but I'm just happy that hockey's underway and that I'm going to be the Islanders beat reporter this season. I'm looking forward to that. Thank Julia in the studio. Thank you, Julia. Love you so much for putting me on that. I'm going to love that gig, and I'm going to love it so much. But let's actually kick it off with the Islanders, who, while the Islanders are a good team, they didn't have a lot of buzz this offseason. They kind of stayed the same, but got a lot more expensive, which for hockey isn't that great. I mean, the key player on this Islanders team is Ilya Sorkin, who's probably the top, arguably the best current goalie in the NHL, top two minimum. And they were able to lock him down for 8 years, 8.25 AAV, $66 million, and there's 4 big guys that they signed this offseason, and Ilya, they locked him down in his prime it's going to be the whole of his prime now, which I'm happy about. Brent, are you a hockey guy at all? Or they have hockey down there in Texas, right?
They did. Dallas Stars fan right here. Good year last year, but I mean, I wouldn't consider myself an avid hockey guy. But I mean, come playoff time,
I'm gonna convince you. Then I'm gonna get you into
it. All right.
We're gonna roll that. Yeah.
Come playoff time, who's not into hockey now?
No, I love playoff hockey so much, but. Yeah, I don't like the Dallas Stars though. They whooped the Sabres' butts back in '99. So foot was in the crease. Brett Hull's a bum. No, that's enough for that time. But back to the Islanders, they're a team that sort of stayed the same and just got more expensive. I mean, the big question mark for me this offseason is Scott Mayfind. Scott Mayfind, he got a 7-year contract, which I like. The big question mark for me was Semyon Varland, who's a backup to Ilya, an aging guy who's 35 years old, and they signed for 4 years, $275 AAV for $11 million. Why are we giving? We're gonna pay he's gonna be 40 by the time his contract's done, and we're paying $2.75 million. That makes no sense.
I mean, when you look at the NHL today, I mean, it's really a league where if you have a good goalkeeper, you have a chance.
Yeah.
And you take Sorkin, and he's one of the premier goalkeepers in the NHL today. You put him up there, and you could even make an argument for number 1.
Mm-hmm.
However, he's not going to be playing every game. Yeah. You're going to need to give him rest, and that's where that backup goalie comes in clutch. Maybe on the expensive side, but you need a backup goalie who's suitable to go for about 20 games in the season. Someone who is able to take advantage of when Sorkin doesn't play, and who's able to possibly post shutouts in Sorkin's absence.
Yeah. Sabres just let go of an old goalie, Craig Anderson. He was like 42. It's crazy that he was in the league. I mean, he was a brick wall. I love the guy, but old guys, they can still get it done. So I'm looking forward to seeing him get out on the ice. But shifting over to the other team in New York, the Rangers, new head coach Peter Laviolette I'm looking forward to seeing the changes that he makes to this team, because a new coach brings a lot to an organization. Peter Laviolette, he's the 8th winningest coach in NHL history. He's got 752 wins, 503 losses, and 150 overtime losses. He's been the head coach for the Islanders, the Canes, the Flyers, the Predators, and the Capitals. And if the Rangers are able to have a coach who has that winning mentality, then I think they're going to be set for this upcoming season. There's a lot of key arrivals and key departures, but where are we? Do you agree that I feel like the Rangers are competitive year in, year out, but there's going to be something going on this year?
Yeah, I mean, when I was doing my research for the show, I was actually talking to one of my boys, shout out Nick, who's a big Rangers fan, and so he was kind of giving me a little rundown on them and about. I mean, you have a great goalie in Igor Shesterkin. I mean,
top 5 guy.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I said it once when we were talking about the Isles. I mean, a good goalie is the key to success in this league. And then you see this Rangers team, how it's built year in and year out, and it's expensive, and they're getting guys, and they're getting to that trade deadline, and then they're acquiring veterans from teams who aren't doing so well and making a big push for the cup. And we saw them do that last year. Unfortunately, didn't work out. They were booted in the first round by the Devils.
We'll talk about them later.
Yeah. But I mean, we've seen the Rangers be competitive year in and year out, and I don't think this year is going to be any different for them.
I'm looking forward to seeing how Peter Laviolette changes the atmosphere there, because the one thing that he's been saying week in and week out is he wants guys with good work ethic. He wants guys who practice like they play. And while they were able to take the first 2 wins in the Devils series, their work ethic kind of trailed off in the rest of that first round of the playoffs. They can't. Playoff hockey's electric. That's not the time to lose your work ethic.
Yeah, and I mean, when you go up 2-0, and then when you start losing games because of that lack of work ethic, I mean, that's when like the momentum shifts. And in hockey, the momentum is huge because you look at the atmosphere at the stadium.
It's
I mean,
bumping in the Garden. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. The hockey atmosphere in the playoffs is different. It is different. The place is crazy loud. Everyone's going crazy. I mean, you see these hits, and then as soon as someone gets hit, it's like the whole stadium erupts. It's insane. It's electric. And once that momentum shifts from the Rangers to the Devils in that series, then you're in trouble.
You can't get it back. Yeah.
No, you're in trouble at that point, and you're digging yourself a hole, which is gonna be really hard to get out of.
Hockey's a game of the pendulum, and once the pendulum's on your side, you gotta hammer it hard. And Rangers are gonna have a lot of work this season. I mean, Metropolitan's a tough league to be in, but if they're able to compete game in and game out like Peter wants them to, I could see them making a deep playoff push.
Yeah, I mean, we can kind of see that. We see that usually, like most years with the Rangers. I mean, they're always a preseason pick to make the playoffs and a potential contender for the cup. I don't think any of that changes this year. I mean, you keep a bunch of your core guys. I mean, you let some of these players have gone that were on 1-year contracts.
Yeah.
And I think it's essential to go out and find some replacements for those guys or try and get them back. But you see this team, the way it's managed. It's managed so well that this team will be a contender year in and year out.
There were a few key departures Patrick Kane and Vladimir Tarasenko both leaving is definitely rough for the team.
Yeah, that's devastating. 2 devastating losses.
Yeah. Patty Kane, big Buffalo guy, hopefully comes to the Sabres, but fingers crossed. I mean, that could take the wind out of a team, and that's the exact opposite of what Peter Laviolette wants.
Yeah, I mean, you lose 2 big players, but I mean, you look at, as I was saying, this team, the way this team is managed. People want to play in the Big Apple.
Yeah.
People want to come and play their home games at Madison Square Garden. Don't think it's going to be that hard. I don't think it's going to be super difficult to rebuild this team in a way that was similar to last year, with these veterans coming in, these big names coming in and making an impact. Although it is going to be tough to kind of figure out how to like manage the loss of those 2.
Let's switch on over to the team that beat the Rangers in the playoffs, the New Jersey Devils. And I'm excited to watch Devils games this year because the Devils are a team with a lot of camaraderie, and that's going to be the biggest part of this Devils offense, defense, because they got Jack Hughes, got now his little brother Luke Hughes, who after losing in the Frozen Four to Michigan, with UMichigan, dipped out of UMichigan and came to the Devils instantly, started training with the team, which is that's just cool. I wish I was good enough at hockey to just ditch school, but no time. But I mean, they got Tyler Toffel coming in. He was a Flames guy. He's not really that big of a star, but he's a good role-playing guy who just adds a lot to the team and adds that camaraderie.
Yeah, I mean, we saw this team last year, and it's a super young team, super well-built, electric team. I mean, the energy with the Devils is that's almost unmatched with these other teams. We saw them match up against New York. It was the young guys versus the veterans. The young guys took that one. We saw them move on, play Carolina. Didn't do so hot against them. I think that's because of a lack of playoff experience because they're so young. But with each year, the young core of this Devils team becomes more experienced, becomes more accumulated to professional hockey, kind of gets them more ready for this playoff experience. I think this team is one of my favorites to not only win the conference, but go all the way to the Cup.
The big question mark for me with this team is goaltending, because their goaltending in the playoffs last season was not great. Vita Vanagek and Rita Schmid, they combined for a 3.42 goals against average, which is
not good.
No.
Not good at all.
No.
Especially in the playoffs.
So they were a little better in the regular season. They were 2.7 combined. But, I mean, that's the biggest question mark for me with this team. They're big. No, there are a lot of young guys, and people will say the playoff experience, which definitely does matter. But if your goal is Swiss cheese, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, no, that's for sure a fact. I mean, I like the Swiss cheese reference there. That's a good one. But yeah, I mean, your goalie is arguably the most important player on that team, the most valuable considering position. And if you don't have a good one, you can't be expected to do a lot unless the roster around you is insanely good. Unless that roster around you is putting up 4 or 5 goals a game consistently, you can't be expected to do a lot, especially come playoff time.
Hockey is the definition of a team sport, because unless you have Wayne Gretzky on your team, it doesn't. Only Wayne Gretzky can carry a team like the way he did. But you have to have multiple guys who are role players in the team and can carry the team to a big playoff push. And that's why I'm so excited to see this cohesive unit that the team has. Everyone that's there is excited to be there. And I feel like that's going to make the difference between they have a good shot to be the best team in this metropolitan area, the tri-state area here. And as we get into the rest of the season, I'm looking to see how, one, if they're able to come together like I think they can, and two, can their goalie step up in any way, shape, or form. So
yeah, I mean, it's going to be exciting to see how all 3 of these teams turn out through the regular season, all 3 with playoff hopes. Probably, well, I mean, we'll see if it happens. Maybe, maybe not. That's going to do it for our NHL segment. We're going to be back. Brian Raybacks will be joining us to talk a little New York football, a little Jets, little Giants. We're going to get into that. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
What's up, guys? I'm Julia Moss.
And I'm Will Talent.
And we're 2 of your hosts for one of WFUV's football podcasts, NFL Friday.
Tune in every Friday for all news and updates around the National Football League.
Also, we'll be making our picks of the week around the league on every episode. Check out NFL Friday wherever you get your podcasts to catch the action.
Welcome back into One-on-One Nightly. We're going to get into some football talk, but before I do, I'm just going to give a little update here. The Diamondbacks have cut the lead in half. It is now 2-1 Milwaukee. It is still scoreless in the Phillies-Marlins game as well.
They might make me eat my words from earlier, so we'll see.
But for now, we're going to hop in, talk a little Giants, talk a little Jets. We're going to start with Gang Green here. Just lost 23-20 against Mahomes and the Chiefs. Zach Wilson, what a game he had. Outperformed Patrick Mahomes at that. I mean, what do you guys take away from this game?
So, is MetLife Stadium just where elite quarterbacks just go to die, essentially? Like, we're referring to Mahomes and Josh Allen, who have played 2 of the worst games, not only of their season, but like of their careers at MetLife Stadium. Is there a narrative there?
I think it's cursed. I've been to the last 2 Bills-Jets games, and we lost both. So, yeah, definitely cursed field, horrible place. Yeah.
But it's so odd because, like, you're not used to seeing Mahomes play that poorly, and the Jets' defense was able to make plays. But also with Mahomes not used to seeing him play that poorly, you're not used to seeing Zach Wilson
play that
well. And it was looking kind of bleak in the first couple of drives, a lot of 3-and-outs, and before you knew it, it was 17-0, but you have to credit the Jets. They battled, and Zach Wilson was right at the forefront of that. It was the best I think we've seen him, maybe the best game that he's played against the Chiefs, too.
Definitely a top 3 game he's ever played. Probably his best game ever with all the Swifties in attendance. I mean,
oh, boy. You can't get me started with that.
Yeah, don't even mention that.
Watching that game, it frustrated me. Like the Pacheco touchdown, and they cut to Taylor Swift.
I want to see Pacheco do his little celebration.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. That was ridiculous.
If it's Kelsey, it's one thing.
That's
Pacheco,
what I was saying.
Yeah. But anyways, Zach Wilson is the first quarterback to ever outperform Mahomes. He's the first quarterback to ever have more completions, more yards, more touchdowns, and less interceptions in the same thing in Mahomes' whole career. I'm talking Chiefs and Texas Tech. Mahomes, we're not used to seeing him outperformed like this. Unfortunately, the Jets could not get it done. But I do want to say that first drive of the second half by Zach Wilson, that was something special.
Best drive of his career, easily.
You look at the throws he made on that drive. He was threading the needle. He went 5 for 5 on that drive, and I would argue every throw was perfect.
Well, they kept saying he was making Aaron Rodgers type throws.
Yeah,
it was uncanny, right? Like
he was hitting the back shoulder with ease.
Yeah, the back shoulder throws, the tight windows to the touchdown to Lazard in the end zone. He was just on point, and I don't know where that confidence came from because we haven't seen that in his first 3 years in the league.
We haven't. If you even go in and look at that touchdown, that defender was probably within an inch of knocking that ball away.
He had to put that in the perfect spot at the perfect velocity at the right time, and he did.
It was a Pat Mahomes type play. Yeah. It was. It's almost like they switched bodies, to be completely honest. You look at how well they played, but the Jets just not able to get it done. The defense though, picked off Mahomes twice.
Yeah,
that's the defense. That's the defense we like to see in New York. That's the defense we're used to seeing. With the secondary, that's insane. We saw C.J. Mosley step up and make a play too, undercutting a Travis Kelce target right before the half. We're just not used to seeing Mahomes make these mistakes, but more importantly, the Jets defense play. We're used to seeing it, but they just played. I think they played extraordinarily, and I want to hear you guys' thoughts on how that defense played.
This defense is one of the best units in the league when they play well. When they play well, they look like no one can score against them. And it was bizarre. It was really weird to see 17 points hung on them in the first quarter. But since then, they settled down and really just forced Mahomes into a lot of bad decisions, which, again, we're not used to seeing from Patrick Mahomes. But this defense, and you look at the performance against the Bills, they played well enough against the Patriots. The defense, no one's really concerned with. It's just all about the offense. And in the games against New England and in their Week 2 matchup, the offense wasn't doing enough.
Yeah.
But in this Week 4 game against Kansas City, the offense hung in there just enough. And it's a shame that Zach Wilson ended up fumbling that snap towards the end of it. And he put the blame on himself, but there was a lot of other factors going on. If you look at a glaring factor, the officiating in that game.
Oh, there was some NFL Rick moments there. That
might have
holding
been.
Call at the end was raw.
Well, not just that one, not just that defensive holding, but there was a. We've seen all the clips. The 3rd and 23 from the Chiefs, where they are blatantly holding
the missed holding call
on
the offense.
That was bad.
That was really bad. Patrick Mahomes is standing there for like 10 seconds, and then he darts for 20 yards. And the hold, you could see it on live television, too, that he got held. And then the replay just makes it so much worse. So it's a real shame because if the Jets win that game, you almost get the fan base back. And I feel like to an extent that they have, but if you beat the Chiefs, that's a big statement win, especially for Zach Wilson. But, going back to this defense, no one's worried about the defense. It's just, can the offense do enough? Is this just going to be a nice showing for Zach Wilson, then he reverts back to what he was in 21 and 22, or is this the start of an upward trajectory for him where he sees Aaron Rodgers is in the building and picks it up? I don't know. That remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, some would say the lack of a headband is a different Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson, no headband is different.
They don't. My buddy doesn't want to see him wearing a headband ever again. He looked electric, but
yeah, I mean, I was doing a little studying. I had a stat test the next day, and I was doing a little studying, doing a little laundry, and I came back in to fold my clothes, and I had the game on my TV, obviously. And so I came in, and this was right as the second half was coming back, and I watched this drive. I watched Zach Wilson lead this drive and score, and then the defensive possession next, where they forced the Chiefs into a 3rd and long, and then that sack. I mean, you could kind of feel the crowd getting back into it. That the place was rocking. It was electric there. Yeah. I mean, you could hear it was so loud, like you could hear it through the TV how into the game the crowd got. And I think that was a big part of why this Chiefs offense kind of slowed down.
Listen, I mean, Jets fans are passionate. They hadn't had a Sunday night game in over a decade. Over a decade. They hadn't had a Sunday night game. So it was a big deal. And obviously there would have been more to it if it was Rodgers against Mahomes. But still, Jets fans have to remain excited. And I think with the way that they played, you can talk yourself into a couple of wins looking at this upcoming schedule. At Denver this weekend, they can win that game.
Oh, yeah, it's a very winnable game.
Very winnable. Eagles at home,
not so
that's going to be a little tough. Then you have the Giants, and they have their own issues that we'll get to soon enough. Chargers, Raiders, and then your own division. So I think they're 1-3 right now. If you can get to these next 4 games, win 2 of them, have yourself positioned at 3-5, maybe even get to 500, and continue the momentum that you had in this game against the Chiefs, the Jets, they have a chance to make the playoffs. And this is the Zach Wilson that I felt like we were going to see after Aaron Rodgers got hurt. Because you looked in Hard Knocks where he was learning from Aaron Rodgers. And then did Aaron Rodgers being in the building force him to step up? It might have. I don't know. But I think Zach Wilson, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see if against Denver he continues to play well or if he just falls back to what we're used to seeing from Zach.
And I feel like, I mean, you've seen Denver has just gotten blown out these past not blown out per se, but I mean the offenses that play them have just exploded these past few weeks. You look at Miami dropping 70 on them. And then you come back to a Bears team who is fighting for points, who hasn't won a game in a calendar year. And then the Bears take a 28-7 lead. The Broncos did come back and win that one, but the fact that the Bears offense was able to jump out to that lead, Justin Fields, career day, 4 touchdowns, career high, first 300-yard passing game against this Broncos defense, kind of gives you a little bit of hope that Zach Wilson is able to kind of jumpstart his career, kind of like Justin Fields did in that game, and passed for, I mean, just like he did against the Chiefs. Yeah, you'd hope so. You'd hope that this Broncos defense would allow that.
Is this Zach Wilson's ceiling, or because I mean we've seen him for a long time struggle to be a competent quarterback, and he balled out last game. Is this what we're expecting from him going on, or is this his peak? This is as high as he could attain.
If I were to guess, this is probably going to be his peak because, I mean, I don't think he goes from what he looked like against the Patriots and then to what he looked like against the Chiefs. I don't think that just changes. I think he had a really strong game, and you can be encouraged by that. So maybe he won't be as bad as he was in New England, but he's not going to be this quarterback for the rest of the season. The Jets, they're still searching for an answer at quarterback, and I don't think they have it with one good game against a premier opponent. I don't.
And I think you have to, if you want to get your hopes up about that, I think you got to see at least 1 or 2 games similar to this in the coming weeks. You can't see him drop another goose egg like he did against the Patriots. You can't see him do that. If you do that against the Broncos defense, there's problems. There's big problems. But if he is able to kind of replicate this performance the next couple of weeks, I think you can, in fact, get your hopes up a little bit that he will be not a great quarterback, but kind of like a game manager type of quarterback. You look at Jimmy G. You look at even per se, you could argue Kirk Cousins in this instance. Like these quarterbacks, you wouldn't put them at the top of the league, but they can get the job done and win games.
Right, and I think a lot of it's going to be, can the Jets run into wins despite having Zach Wilson as their quarterback? That was kind of the mantra last year where they ended up beating the Bills with Zach Wilson at quarterback.
Yeah.
But now, do you think that there's a chance that maybe Zach Wilson leads a couple of nice drives and shows some flashes where he can play well enough to be the reason they're winning football games? That would be huge.
That would be a huge step in his career, but you look at the way this Jets team, it's not constructed in a way where he has to do that, which is good for him. They're constructed in a way where he has to maybe score a couple touchdowns a game, put up 20, 23 points, but his defense is going to stay strong and hold the opponent to under 20.
If we see Brees continue to excel, then I feel like the Jets could be a threat, because if Zach Wilson is maybe like 3/4, half of what he was last game, and we're able to see the duality of Brees as well, because he had that 43, that was a monster rush that he had. That was sick. If he's able to have runs like those and have that passing threat-ish from Zach Wilson, then I think they're set up for success. But we'll see,
Yep, I mean, the Jets, they play the Broncos this Sunday. Broncos are 2.5-point favorites. We'll see how that one goes. We're gonna go across town. We're gonna hit the New York Giants this time. Pitiful performance.
That's the right word to use.
Pitiful performance on Monday. They lost 24-3 against the Seahawks. We saw nothing out of that game to like. There was nothing there that I would say is a takeaway that you could bring into next week. I think everything's a work in progress, and I'm interested to hear what you guys think about that game.
I'm shocked at where the Giants have ended up. I can't believe it. As a fan, I had optimism coming into this season because last year they win a playoff game and they signed Daniel Jones to the contract. He looks like the franchise guy potentially, and God, it's just all falling apart. This offense looks dreadful.
Yeah.
It looks dreadful. It's unwatchable. This offensive line is extremely just excruciating. Like, there's no talent there. Andrew Thomas is hurt. That's your best offensive lineman, arguably the best left tackle in the league. And I get he's hurt. I get Saquon's out, but there's no reason to excuse how bad it's become. And I'm seeing a lot of rhetoric on Twitter and a lot of takes being thrown out there on talk shows or whatever. And I kind of want to just combat some of them right now because a lot of people are pointing at Daniel Jones and looking at him saying, this is the guy you paid $40 million. There's a lot of that happening.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
The pick six was really bad, but I mean, are we watching the same game? Like, are we not seeing that the offensive line is giving him no time to throw? He has nothing. So I think if you're blaming this on Daniel Jones, you're wrong. You're just so wrong.
And I apologize for cutting you off here, Brian. We do have a caller on the line. Pat from Jersey wants to talk some Giants football. Pat, how are you doing today?
Good. Not my name.
Pat
is very much not Pat. But I wanted to get a quick call in. I'm on my way to baseball practice right now, so I'm gonna make this very, very, very quick.
Oh, that's Jack.
Yeah, I just missed the cutoff for Jets, so I just wanted this to be really brief because I know you just talked about Daniel Jones. I think there was a bit of a throw off there, but I just wanted to ask one quick question. Do you think that by any chance, and I haven't really made up my mind on this either. Do you think that this Zach Wilson performance is being blown out of proportion? Because I'm not going to go out and say it was a bad performance, right? He's the first quarterback in Pat Mahomes' career to throw for more yards, touchdowns, and less interceptions head-to-head. So, like, an objectively good game, right? But it's 2 touchdowns. He's never had a game where he's thrown more than 3 touchdowns. And on top, like, don't get me wrong, in comparison to how he's been playing, yes, improvement. They were actually in a game against a premier team in the NFL. But at the same time, you have a team like Minnesota who started the year off 0-3, and you got Kirk Cousins who's throwing just south of 400 yards every weekend and 3 tutties at least, usually a couple interceptions as well. But my point being is he's going up and down the field. He's racking up touchdowns every weekend. They're losing. No one's really talking about that. But then, Zach Jones, I mixed his name, sorry. Zach Wilson, he has a great performance, don't get me wrong, but I'm just wondering if it's only looking, those numbers only look as sexy to other people only because the ones preceding them are so bad. But I just want to get your guys' thoughts on that. Thanks for taking my call.
Of course, Jack. Yeah.
Jack, not Pat. Yeah.
I mean, this Zach Jones kid. Zach Wilson. I mean, almost, how can you not blow it out of proportion? If you're a Jets fan and you're seeing that, you've never seen that out of Zach Wilson.
To see that on Sunday Night Football, you have to have a reaction to it. And, of course, the New York media is going to take it to another level.
Yep.
But, I mean, I think it's not too crazy to say it's out of proportion because, I mean, they still lost the game.
They still lost, yeah. Mm-hmm. But I think with Zach Wilson, I mean, you have to take what you can get. And I think a Jets fan will take what they got on Sunday night. A Giants fan won't.
Yeah.
So, but back to my point about Daniel Jones. How are people blaming him? Blaming him? I get the pick six looked bad. I get he has a couple interceptions, which a lot of them haven't been his fault. Any quarterback playing behind this offensive line would fold in a matter of seconds. 11 sacks, and I don't even think we're counting the sacks that he avoided because he uses his legs and he's able to escape pressure somehow. He's running for his life every time, and the Giants have never had a good offensive line. It just makes me feel so bad for him that he is always in a dire situation where he needs to get the ball out and he's taking a sack. It's hard to watch, and I really want to put an end to people saying that he's the reason the Giants are losing. No, he's not. There's a lot of other factors.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it. I mean, the offensive line is definitely a problem, but I don't think you can put it all on the offensive line. I think you have to put some of it on Daniel Jones.
Some of it, sure, yeah.
You look at that interception. He rushed that throw because he was being blitzed, or not blitzed. The pressure was getting to him all night long, and so he figured, I'm gonna have pressure. His internal clock was so sped up. He's like, I have to get this ball out. Was not a good throw.
No,
it was not a good throw.
And he also had Darren Waller running to the back pylon, and he wasn't. I don't know. I'm not saying he would have been open, but he would have. I at least like Darren Waller making a contested catch rather than just throwing a ball short of the goal line to Paris Campbell.
Yeah,
that's just my thought.
I mean, you went out and traded for Darren Waller so that he could be this big target you have in these big areas. You look at Darren Waller; he's been huge in the red zone. He was huge in the red zone for the Raiders when they had him, and then you bring him in and you kind of put him on an island with a smaller defender, and you don't give him a chance. That's where I'm kind of confused because we saw him do that on the Raiders a lot. They would line him up out wide and have him against a very, very much smaller, like a way smaller corner, and he would dominate that matchup. And you get him against a corner there, and you don't give him a chance. I agree with you on that part. I think that's the decision-making by Daniel Jones there, thinking that he needs to get it out quickly.
But he thinks he needs to get it out quickly because
he's been rushed all night.
You're just accustomed to getting a lineman getting through the line in a second. And, like, you're seeing videos, Evan Neal is blocking his own man and causing an interception. Like, you see this video where he blocked Darren Waller.
Yeah, he went in, shoved Darren Waller in the back, and just let his guy go through. I mean,
and I don't know if you guys saw his quote today in an article where he's calling like fans who boo him sheep, and he's like, "What are they?" And Don LaGreca actually had a really good rant about it on the Michael Kay show, and it's just Evan Neal has been about as bad as you can be at right tackle, and this is a first-round pick too. He just has no ability to protect the quarterback and is not showing like a high IQ. You're going out blocking your own player.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a lot of issues.
We saw them do the same thing with Andrew Thomas, where they brought him in the first round. He was god awful his first year.
Andrew Thomas wasn't this bad though.
He was not. But he was a bad player his first year. His second year, he bounced back and became a good tackle. Evan Neal has not taken that leap.
And this is Evan Neal's second year. So if you want to take a leap at any point,
it should be now.
And it just the quotes to the media and the arrogant quotes to the media with how bad he's played too. Really? Really? You're going to take shots at the fans when you're arguably the worst right tackle in the league right now. Arguably the worst. So the offensive line hasn't done a good job. I still don't think the weapons are in a good spot. They got Darren Waller, but they just haven't been able to get him the ball.
I want to see what Dable's able to do going forward. Not to cut you off, but I want to see what Dable's able to do going forward because it's not a great opportunity. When I was talking with my mom yesterday about the game, my mom told me to get the rosary I bought at the Vatican and put it on the TV for my Giants friends to give them a little something. But I mean, I know Dable's used to having Josh Allen as his quarterback, but Daniel Jones is no Josh Allen. So I mean,
that's fair. Yeah. He's not.
So the Giants fell to 1-3 on Monday night when they lost to the Seahawks. They play the Dolphins on Sunday. It's gonna be a challenging game. Dolphins are 10.5-point favorites. Brian, thank you so much for joining us this segment. That is gonna be all for the NFL. When we come back, we're gonna be talking some Yankees, some Mets. We will be right back. Stay tuned.
Hi, this is Michael Kay, WFUV class of 1982. WFUV is your home for all things Fordham athletics, with live coverage of Fordham football, Fordham men's and women's basketball, in addition to our Saturday show, One on One. Stay right here on 90.7 FM for all things WFUV sports.
Actually, wait. Welcome back to One on One Nightly. I'm Michael Matuch, joined by Brandon Shorey today, and we are talking New York baseball. But before we do that, there's been some updates with the current MLB postseason going on right now. The Phillies have taken a lead over the Miami Marlins in the bottom of the fourth inning, and Arizona has made me eat my own words as they clawed back, now up 5-2 over the Milwaukee Brewers. Yeah, that was a rough take for me at the beginning when I said that'd be tough for them to come back, and they're doing it. But I mean, let's talk a little New York baseball, and let's kick it off with the Mets letting go of Buck Showalter, a move I really don't like. I love Buck Showalter. I think while this season that we had wasn't what we wanted, I don't think that's Buck's fault. I mean, when we're halfway through the season, selling off Verlander and Scherzer, saying, well, we're not actually going to push for a postseason this year or next year. 2024 is our year. I mean, when the organization's already going that direction and folding on the season, a fifth of the way through. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to blame this all on Buck. Do you? Or
I mean, you look, they were a 101 win team last season, and then they come in this season.
Manager of the year, yeah.
They lose to Grom, but they rebuild that pitching staff. Verlander, Scherzer. You have the highest payroll in the MLB. You have great players, Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, Brandon Nimmo, McNeil. Like, you have the roster, but this team greatly underperformed this year. You brought in guys like guys like Daniel Vogelback, like guys of that caliber to kind of fill in holes left by like what you would call in the NBA like role players.
Yeah.
Like, you brought in these guys to kind of help that team, and just they underperformed, Every player underperformed. I would not blame that on Buck at all. The players, for sure, they don't blame that on Buck. They have admitted that, yeah, it's our fault. We underperformed this season. They're not happy to see him go. So I don't think it was a great move to let Buck go.
And just the way that, because, I mean, Buck was a team guy. I mean, well, he was sort of like the old guy that was just sort of hanging out, just keeping the Mets in check. But, I mean, to fire the manager of the year just a year ago, I mean, I don't like the move at all, because if with our new president of baseball operations, we want some stability in this, well, I guess in this now rebuilding team. It doesn't make sense for me to go out and start anew, I guess, which, I mean, thing is, there are a lot of new candidates, but I don't know who's going to replace Buck in the way that, because I felt he was doing a good job. So.
Yeah, I mean, when David Stearns was hired a few weeks before the end of the season, you kind of knew there was going to be some changes around the whole organization. David Stearns never really was on the same page with Buck. He kind of gave Buck Showalter the option. He said, you either resign or you're going to get fired. And Buck said, he's like, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to quit on my team. Chose to get fired. They fired him. He brought in the team before the last game. Brought in the vets, Lindor, Alonso, those type of guys. Let them know the whole situation. They were shocked. That's when they said they don't blame him. It was themselves. They underperformed. And so now it's up to Stearns to find a new manager. That's what Cohen said.
Yeah.
I want to know your thoughts, Michael. You're a Mets fan. Who do you want to manage the New York Mets?
I mean, Greg Cowsnell right now, the current Milwaukee Brewers manager, is not under contract after this following season, taking his team to the playoff. They're not doing so hot right now, but I mean, I feel like he's a good guy to keep our eye on, but there's a lot of opportunities if we want to either hire from within. I mean, there's a lot of good guys just all around the league who could really shake up this Mets offense and hopefully get us going.
And we're going to cross town right here. We're going to go over to the Bronx. We're going to hit the Bronx Bombers. They are expected to bring Aaron Boone back. He's expected back next season. Not the greatest season this last year. They went 82-80. They did keep the streak going of having a record over 500. However, this is the first time since 2016 that they have missed the playoffs. Yankees fans are not happy about the way this season went. I think the Yankees as a team, as an organization, are not happy either. And you kind of have to look at what they're going to do for next year. And I think the big thing is you got to look at their free agents, the people they're going to be free agents from the Yankees. And there's one big one in Luis Severino, and I'm kind of interested to see how they handled that, how they go about getting the pitching staff back together.
Yeah, because, I mean, when you have Garrett Cole leading the rotation, obviously it's around him, but Garrett Cole can't go every day. They need guys who are able to step up when they need to. And so whether that's working with the farm team down in Scranton Wilkes-Barre or finding guys from around the league, that's one of the biggest question marks for me going in to this upcoming, this offseason for the Yankees. But I mean, seeing where they make changes to their pitching, that's one of the big question marks for me.
Yeah, and I think it was just a super unlucky season for the Yankees. They were super injured this season. I mean, Garrett Cole played amazing, Cy Young candidate, most likely pitcher to win the AL Cy Young. But then you look, Carlos Rodon, they brought him in to be the number 2, the next big thing in New York right behind Garrett Cole. Pitched awful this season, did not live up to expectations. Nestor Cortez got injured before the season even started, could not pitch. Aaron Judge missed 60-some odd games with a toe injury. I mean, this lineup was just never fully put together. There was always injuries, and I think that's what was a big part of contributing to the Yankees not being able to be a successful team this year by Yankee standards. I think if they run it back with the same team, odds are you're not going to get this unlucky. Kind of reminds me of the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, super fragile team, great team, super fragile. That's what the Yankees were this year. I want to see them run it back one more time. Run it back, same players, bring Boone back, keep him there. The team's a good team. They were in the playoffs 2 years ago. I think they can get it done next year if they run it back.
Because good thing you brought up Boone, because I don't know if you think this, but I mean, Boone and Cashman, I don't know. They've been tenured. They've been with the Yankees for a while. I don't know if it's there was a lot of injuries, so I don't want to point the finger at the coach like the Mets have, But I mean, I feel like there's something that has to be done to going forward. I don't know if it's just guys who were injured stepping up. Like if we see Stanton have his 2020, 2021 season numbers, which is he's aging out, coming off an injury, that'd be tough to do. But I mean, that I feel like Stanton coming back could be the biggest change for the Yankees, but we'll see. Yeah.
So the Pinstripes with a lot to look forward to next year, trying to build on this bad season by their standards. We just talked Mets. We just talked Yankees. Huge slate of college football games this weekend. We're going to dive into that, but we're going to take a quick break first. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
What's up, everyone? I'm Danny Scott.
I'm Tyler Hu, and we're two of your hosts for WFUV's College Gridiron.
We'll discuss all the best games from around the world of college football.
We'll also talk about the rankings and give our thoughts on the Heisman race.
We'll preview the best games of next week and give our score predictions.
Keenan Troy and other co-hosts will join us as well.
Tune in to College Gridiron wherever you get your podcast.
And welcome back into One-on-One Nightly. We just finished talking about some New York MLB baseball. We're back. We're here. We're talking college football. Huge slate this Saturday. I'm going to start us with this one. I think it's established. I think it's been established. I'm from Texas. I mean, big Rangers guy. I think we've announced that. So we're gonna start in Texas. Texas, Oklahoma. Red River rivalry. Huge game. Takes place at the Cotton Bowl just outside Dallas. Texas coming in as the number 3 ranked team in the country. Oklahoma is 12. Both teams having good seasons. We saw this matchup last year. 49-0. Texas took it. And that was on a year not as good as this year, given they did have NFL star Bijan Robinson leading the team. This year, Quinn Ewers has stepped up. Jordan Brooks has stepped up. This Texas team looks lethal. Michael, how excited are you to watch this game?
I'm not the biggest college football guy, so Brendan, I need you to sell me on why I should watch this game. I know Boomer Sooner and Texas Longhorns, they're a big match between the two teams. Good colors teams, the red and the orange.
Yeah,
good matchup jersey-wise. But, I mean, I want you to sell me on why I should watch this game. I know Manning's on the Longhorns. I know he's a third-string guy behind the potential Heisman candidate. I don't know if it's a good move for him to go to Texas looking back. But, I mean, I want you to sell me on why this is a good game.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Ewers' stats so far this season. He's completing 66% of his passes, 1,358 yards, 10 touchdowns to only 1 interception with 5 rushing touchdowns. Has led this Texas team to the number 3 spot in the AP Top 25 poll.
Not bad.
It's not bad. It's not bad at all. You look at some of their wins, an impressive win against Alabama a few weeks ago, beating them by 10 on the road in Tuscaloosa. This team's legit. They showed that game. I don't want to. I don't want to say it. Knock on wood. Texas is back, baby. Oklahoma, on the other hand, Dylan Gabriel having a fantastic year as well, completing 75% of his passes for almost 1,600 yards, 15 touchdowns through the air, 4 on the ground, 2 picks. I mean, the quarterback matchup in this game, based on performances so far, is a matchup between 2 possible Heisman candidates. Obviously, Ewers is higher than Dylan Gabriel, but historically, this matchup has always been a shootout. It's always been close, no matter the. Last year was an outlier, 49-0. But every year other than then, as far back as I can remember, it's always a close game, no matter how good both teams are.
That's fun. That's gritty.
It's a great game to watch. It gets you into it. It's exciting. I mean, what could you enjoy more on a Saturday afternoon than watching a 56-49 final score between 2 top 25 teams?
I remember watching Alabama-Tennessee last year when Tennessee tore down the goalposts, and that started kicking me around, saying, "Hey, maybe this college football thing isn't not as good as American or NFL football as I thought. Maybe this is actually kind of cool to watch." So
yeah.
If it's something like that, Brendan, you kind of got me on the horn. I'm trying to figure out. Throwing up the horns is a lot of fun, but also throwing horns down is
that
it's
hurts.
It's so much fun to do.
That hurts, and I saw that back there, Caleb Stein. I saw you throw the horns down there. It hurts me to watch people do that because I mean, hook 'em, baby. Come on now.
So much fun to do.
It's like every other team in the Big 12. I mean, some of them have their signs. You got TCU with the frog, go Frogs. You got SMU. I mean, pony up. I mean, you got some of these teams. I'm not gonna do OUs because I just can't. But a lot of these teams, it's horns down. That like their hand sign. It hurts every time. It kills me to see that. But you look. I think one key thing about this game, I'm gonna mention this, is you look at the run game for both these teams. You look at Jordan Brooks, who's averaging almost 7 yards a carry and has 5 touchdowns on the year. And then you look at the 2 leading rushers for Oklahoma, and you got Marcus Major and Tawee Walker. Marcus Major is averaging under 4 carries a year. Tawee Walker is averaging 5.1. Between the two of them, only 3 touchdowns. You look at Jordan Brooks, he's got 5 touchdowns on his own. Obviously, we can see Oklahoma as a very pass-heavy team. Dylan Gabriel likes to sling the ball around. We see that with his 1,600 yards. Texas's defense has been huge this year. They've stepped up big time. I'm excited to see how this turns out. This one's on Saturday. College game day is going to be there. It's a big game of the week. But that's enough about Texas. I'm getting a little too excited here. We're going to move over. We're going to move over to 21-ranked Mizzou taking on 23-ranked LSU. LSU traveling to Missouri to play this game. A battle between Jaden Daniels and Brady Cook. I mean, you look at how these quarterbacks are doing. Brady Cook has yet to throw an interception this season.
Not too shabby at all.
Not at all. And we've seen Mizzou come up in some big spots. They beat a ranked Kansas State team. They play
undefeated Mizzou,
yeah. Yeah. That they're playing another ranked team, slightly below them. But I mean, when you get into the rankings like this and they're this close together, is there much of a difference? I don't think so.
Not. From what I know about the AP poll, there's not too much of a difference between as you move down lower in the rankings. And I feel that just adds to a more competitive game that you're going to see when these two teams match up. I mean, seeing Mizzou, it's going to be tough going against LSU. But, all in all, I'm looking forward to, 1, getting into college football. 2, seeing a well-bout game between these two teams.
Yeah, you look at, I think the one key thing about this matchup is that both teams have an alpha receiver. You look at Mizzou, you got Luther Burden III, 43 receptions, 644 yards, and 5 touchdowns. The next closest receiver in receptions has 24 receptions. They have almost 400 less yards, and they got 2 less touchdowns. Flip over to the LSU side. Malik Neighbors, 40 receptions, 625 yards, 5 touchdowns. They do have a second option. Brian Thomas Jr., 33 receptions, so not too many less than Malik. 537 yards, so about 100 less yards, but he's got 8 touchdowns on the year. Big red zone target right there, Brian Thomas Jr. I think he's going to be the key to this game, getting him involved in the red zone like they've done so far this year. Mizzou, we'll see if their defense can step it up when their backs are against the goal. I'm excited to see how this one turns out. If you had to pick a winner, who do you think takes this one?
I think LSU could come and really show out. I mean, Daniels, he's with only 2 picks on the season. He does have more touchdowns than Cook does. So that's sort of the offensive edge that I think could push him over the edge. But I feel it's going to come down to more of which team of guys wants to be there and wants to have that camaraderie to push them over the edge.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at Jaden Daniels. He's got more touchdowns. He's got more yards. Yeah. He also has that rushing upside with almost 300 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. We saw him just play in a huge game against Ole Miss. Very high-scoring affair. We've seen the pictures. The original over-under was 60-something. The live over-under in the fourth quarter was over 100. Mm-hmm. I mean, plenty of points scored there. LSU defense was not able to stop Ole Miss. Now, Mizzou's no Ole Miss, but they still have a lethal offense. Yeah. I think we're going to see another high-scoring one. I think it's going to be a high-scoring one. I put both teams in at least the 30s. So. I can't pick a winner. I can't. Yeah. I mean, these teams. If I had to guess, if I was Vegas,
mm-hmm.
I'm making it even.
Okay,
I'm making it even. Yeah, I'm making it a pick 'em because I don't see a clear winner here. I just don't.
I mean, if I'm just looking at box scores and numbers, I feel like it's important to see the yards difference from Daniels to Cook, a full 200 more yards, and the 2 more touchdowns. The 5 more touchdowns, and to have Diggs on the ground rushing for the same amount of touchdowns as Schrader does on 30 less carries almost. Strictly numbers-wise, that's why I chose LSU. But I mean, I guess if you're set to pick them, then I guess I'll have to roll with that too. But
and we got one more game to look at. 25 Louisville is hosting number 10 Notre Dame. I said it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame is a staple of the show. Whether it's one-on-one nightly like here, whether it's one-on-one last Saturday, whether it's college gridiron, which I've been on a couple times, Notre Dame always comes up, and they're going to do it again. You have a big Heisman candidate. Mm-hmm. I would argue he could be a number 1 or number 2 in the Heisman race in Sam Hartman. He's got almost 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns, hasn't thrown a single interception this year. Barely lost to Ohio State last week. I gave my thoughts about that on one-on-one last Saturday. Go! It's on YouTube. Go watch it. You'll hear my thoughts. I think Notre Dame should have come out with it. Notre Dame, and then, I mean, you look at this team. It's such a whole team, such a complete team. You got receivers. You got 3 receivers who have 2 receivers here. You have over 250 yards this season, and then you look at the run game too. Both the running backs are averaging over 7 yards a carry. I mean, this team is so complete on the offensive side of the ball. And then you look at the defensive side of the ball, and last week they played Ohio State and held Marvin Harrison Jr., the consensus number 1 receiver in college football, to 3 receptions for 30 yards.
Mm.
I mean, it's such a complete team on both sides of the ball. I don't think Louisville stands a chance.
While I am somewhat illiterate on the college football landscape, I know Sam Hartman is him. He's balling week in and week out. I see the TikToks and the College Game Day of everyone wearing his face on their shirts, and they're having a time. And seeing him, I know he's an older guy for college football. I don't really understand how that works, but I know that he has the ability to step up, and if he does that with this duality of their Notre Dame defense, I don't see how Louisville has any shot in this.
And I think we want to real quick before we finish up. Jack Plummer, he's the quarterback for Louisville. He's thrown 6 picks this season. Notre Dame defense looking to hop on that. But boy, Michael, what a show we had today!
It's incredible. I loved it.
It was
a time.
Amazing time. Unfortunately, that's going to do it for us today. If you missed any part of today's show, you can go back and watch it on the WFUV Sports YouTube page. The sports director of WFUV is Bobby Chaffardini. From Michael Matuch, Caleb Stein back there on the board, Brian Raybacks handling the video, and Julia Moss supervising. I'm Brendan Shorey saying so long and good night. One on One Nightly is a production of WFUV Sports.